Bismillah, alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum, peace be upon all of you. So, when nurturing kids, either as a teacher or parent, I'm going to talk about it a little more in the parent vein here. Consistency is key to everything. Because nurturing young people to turn out the way you want them to is about the formation of habits ultimately, the formation of habits in action, but also habits of mind as well. So the mental and physical habits that kids develop, they're going to develop through consistent prompting and consistent messaging and consistent practice. And really, you need, and you need to be consistent really with everything as much as you can. Consistent with the lessons and messaging that you give them, consistent with the way you react to them, consistent with how you treat different situations, and consistent with your own behaviors that you exhibit to them. And certainly consistency with how you spend time with them. Now, as a parent, you're going to be in competition for your kids' minds and hearts and actions with the media and with the school system. Now, there's an extent to which you want to work with your school as best you can, but there's things about school environments that are going to put you in competition with messaging being given to them. And with media, you want to monitor it and filter it as best you can to reinforce the things that are better as far as what you want to be delivered to your kids as far as messaging. But there's things there you're going to be in competition with. Now those two things that you're in competition with, there's a structure to it. There's a structure to how school is done that keeps it coming to them consistently. There's a structure to how media and media programming is delivered that keeps it consistently coming to kids. So as a parent, you need structure as well for how your time is spent with them so that it's organized to, one, be consistent, and two, be productive towards teaching them. So at the base of this is how you eat together and how your children eat, because eating is at the base and foundation of just being alive. And everyone knows that what a person eats affects their physical health. But the way that a person eats as well affects the overall tenor of their life also. So someone who eats alone all the time, they're going to feel lonely. Someone who eats on the run and on the go all the time, they're going to feel hectic and feel maybe that their life is chaotic. And someone who, a young person, particularly adolescents try to do this, who eats more with their friends than with their family, they're going to value their friends more than their family. So when a child is a baby and the mother feeds it, everyone knows this is a huge bonding experience for the baby, and it gets a young person very attached to the mother, and that lays a foundation for the child's emotional connection to their mother and to their parents that gives parents an advantage over all these competing entities from the outset with their child as a way to influence them. And physical affection just in general from both parents is very important in the baby and early childhood stage. But the feeding is key to this, because when you eat, you go from the negative feelings of being hungry to the positive feelings of being satiated. So a baby experiences this in a very strong way when being fed and being held by its mother or its father as well. But, this needs to extend throughout their life to ideally dinner time and other meals as well, because they'll still go through that feeling at these times of going through the angst of being hungry to the satisfaction of being satiated. And you want there to be the family in their presence when they're doing that. So we're talking about consistent time where the family is face-to-face with one another. The bodies are directly facing one another. And this creates a structure for interaction. Having the food there is another form of creating the structure, and it sets a base for consistent interaction with the kids and consistent messaging to be given to them. Now, there's hardship for some families with having to do this because a lot of times people need to work, and they will say they can't do it, and sometimes that might be the case. But I have talked to lots of different families, lots of different people about this, because it's something I ask people about consistently all over the place, and I'm really pretty surprised the amount of people, and people from different backgrounds, the amount of people who don't prioritize this, who don't prioritize eating together as a family. And this is really the big issue. It ultimately has to be prioritized, because when you start to peel back why it's not happening with families, this is what ultimately comes down to, is that's not being prioritized. Now, a lot of times you find that it did happen when the kids were younger, but it faded away over time. Now, it might happen in one part when the kids are in elementary school and there's no longer a parent staying at home all the time because maybe they went back to work or something, because they didn't have to handle the daycare aspects with the kids. From age 0 to 3, parents are usually eating with the kid. At least one parent is usually always eating with the kid. There's no problem with that. The thing is, it needs to continue at least for one meal a day, and best is dinner. It needs to continue up through their life and into being a teenager. So it's a lot of times it starts to get chipped away in elementary school, especially when families start putting the kids in more extracurricular activities. And even maybe they value that time to create more extracurricular activities for themselves, because there's more people taking care, because they can put their kids in more programs. Families might start eating on the run more. But a big way in which it fades is when the kids start to become teenagers and when they get into high school, because then they start to get the autonomy to want to eat with their friends and want to be out and want to be doing other things when dinner time comes instead. And they'll push for that. And they might even put up some resistance to the insistence that they are at home for dinner all the time. And if it's the oldest child in the family who's doing this, say they're doing this at age 15, 16, but they have some younger siblings who are 10, 11, 12, those 10, 11, 12-year-olds, they will see the same thing and say, yeah, I'd rather be in my room with my iPad or this type of thing. And busyness with homework and work is another excuse that families say a lot for why they're not able to do this. I'm busy with work projects. The kids are busy with their homework, so it just works easier to, we make something, people grab it, and then everyone's in their separate rooms eating. So, so it is very difficult for some families. Some families, there's economic realities to it. And with those families you still want to find consistency with this in whatever way you can. Day-to-day consistency is the best, but if you can get together 3 days a week and be consistent with it, 4 days a week and be consistent with it, you have to prioritize that. For parents who travel, or who they travel for their work, so they're not able to be home all the time, as far as the eating together goes, you still want to make it as consistent as you can when you are home. And two, nowadays, mashallah, you can communicate like I'm communicating with you here, just through these digital devices. It's a benefit that you can get some modicum of face-to-face communication, even at a distance. And you want to have a consistent schedule, consistent structure with that. And you can coordinate that to revolve around the eating. So, okay, we eat dinner, and then after dinner, we do, a 5-minute phone call with dad, or this type of thing for parents who are on the road a lot. So there's different ways around it, So people always have reasons for why this gets away from them. And it's not to say that there are not reasons, but at the end of the day, it has to be prioritized, because it doesn't get away, because the way it gets, the reason it gets away from people is because it's ultimately not prioritized.